This episode is brought to you by ProMensal.
So I think there is this habitual loop that we really get stuck in through our subconscious. And until we step away from that and start to question it a little bit, we don't really have a lot of awareness on why we're drinking.
Welcome to Thriving in Menopause, brought to you by Prevention magazine. Today we're talking about drinking. If you're someone who enjoys a drink as a way to relax, to have a laugh, and sometimes just to cope because life's so overwhelming, I hear you. But the facts are the amount women are drinking as they go through midlife is increasing. So today we're going to look at what is risky drinking really, and are there quick and easy ways to stop relying on alcohol to have fun, relax, and just cope with life. So with me today is Kathryn Elliott, a Melbourne-based female alcohol and binge drinking coach. Welcome, Kathryn.
Oh, it's so great to be here, Andrea. Thanks for having me.
Kathryn, I know that you came to this particular area through your own story. Perhaps you can tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think my drinking story, I guess, started where a lot of drinking stories start in Australia as a teenager. I probably had my first drink when I was 14, and I think there was always something a little bit exciting about drinking. For me, it was a bit rebellious. There was a bit of an oblivion feeling. I very quickly became known as, I guess, a girl who could drink a lot. I could drink fast and I could keep up with the boys. And so I had a lot of positive affirmation around my drinking. And everyone around me used to go out and drink a lot on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. And this pattern, I guess, went through my late teens, my 20s, 30s, and 40s. I didn't identify as, I guess, a really problematic drinker. I saw myself as someone who drank like a lot of other people in Australia did, but underneath it all, there was a lot of shame and embarrassment around my drinking and the fact that it didn't feel in control. And I think particularly as a mum with teenage sons in my 40s, I really started to doubt the role of alcohol in my life. And that's eventually why I decided to take an extended break from drinking. And nearly 4 years later, here I am. I'm still here.
I don't imagine that you really said one day, I'm going to stop drinking and never drank again. There must have been some bumps in the road.
Yeah, sure. And absolutely, Andrea, that's right. It was an up and down journey. I didn't just make a decision to stop drinking. I tried lots of different things over the years. I would often have breaks from drinking for a month or two. I'd often do Feb fast, dry July, and I'd actually find those quite easy because I was quite a disciplined person, quite into other aspects of my health. But what I'd find is that I would always eventually go back to this kind of excessive binge drinking, which I didn't like. And so I guess there was probably two main events that happened in the last couple of years in the lead up to me deciding to have an extended break from drinking. And that was that I had my brother's wedding and I actually got very drunk and said some things to my mum that were a bit embarrassing, and I just didn't hold myself in the way that I would have liked to. And the second one was that I was away on a family holiday and my children saw me after I'd had way too many drinks. And again, that was a really awful realization that my drinking was getting me into situations that I really didn't want to be in, and that it wasn't the person that I wanted to be. It wasn't aligned to my values. So it was after my boys had, basically said the next morning that they had been really worried about my drinking the night before that I made a real decision within myself that I needed to change.
Were there any sort of bad side effects to giving up alcohol?
I didn't have any physical withdrawals because I wasn't a daily drinker. So I didn't feel cravings for alcohol, I guess physical cravings at all. For me, it was more the social and the emotional withdrawals from being out and enjoying, a couple of drinks, a bottle of wine. Those were the things for me that I missed. And also a lot of our social groups was all around catching up over drinks. So for me, that's where the situation initially felt more uncomfortable. And because my identity was very connected with someone who would always have a drink, there was actually, I guess in a way, a bit of grief at letting go of that as well, that I was not that drinking party girl anymore. I was turning myself into someone quite different.
So how did you manage that with your friends?
Well, it was hard. It was hard. It was uncomfortable. And, one of the funny things is, what you often don't realise when you're drinking, not it doesn't have to be every day, is that you are sort of numbing certain parts of life's experiences. And so all of a sudden I was really feeling quite emotional. I was feeling everything. When you go into social situations, often there is a bit of anxiety that we all feel when we go into parties and groups of people that we don't know. And alcohol absolutely does take the edge off that. So I started to practice going to lots of those different situations so that I would start to get used to that, just that initial feeling of being a bit uncomfortable but not reaching for an alcoholic drink. And of course, there are lots of non-alcoholic drinks on the market now. So I occasionally use some of those, but generally I was just drinking mineral water, making it look and feel good in a nice glass. And the thing that really helped me was I started to have an intention when I'd go out socially of, rather than focusing on drinking, I started to focus on people. And that opened up just a beautiful new way of socializing for me, because when I was drinking, although I was in lots of conversations, I often wasn't very present. And I ended up sort of, I guess, talking to people who I wouldn't necessarily normally talk to or weren't in my radar. So that was actually something really in the early days that gave me, just a real feeling of confidence and something new.
We'll be right back after this.
Perimenopause can actually start in your 40s. Declining estrogen production during perimenopause brings on changes to menstrual cycles and often the onset of hot flushes, night sweats, mood swings, and sexual problems. Promensal Peri is specifically designed for perimenopausal women and can help relieve these common menopausal symptoms. Promensal Peri is available at leading pharmacies across Australia and offers a cost-effective treatment at under $1 a day. When things start to change, try Promensal Peri. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.
Okay, we're back. When we're talking about social situations, people talk about having an enabler, the one that goes, oh, go on. It must have been hard sometimes to go, no, thanks.
Oh, yes. And look, if you're a drinker, there's enablers all around. That's what you do. You surround yourself with lots of people who like to have a drink. And look, I have to say, most of my friends were very supportive. There were a few that weren't. And, that really says something about their own relationship with alcohol and not mine. I think it's very important that if someone is deciding to have a break from drinking or doesn't want to drink on a night, that as friends in social groups, it's just important to support everyone else's decision. Like, I don't place judgment on people who want to enjoy a few drinks and they drink. That's up to them. So I think, this is the whole idea of being more socially inclusive of different choices when it comes to alcohol, particularly in Australian culture where it really has played such a firmly entrenched role.
Yes, absolutely. I guess what I'd like to talk to you about is what alcohol does to perimenopausal symptoms.
Yeah, so this is such a great topic because I am actually, I'm postmenopausal now. So I've just been through all of this and I have many, many friends going through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. And I think the thing is, again, it's a very unique journey for each person, but it is, very well known that alcohol can increase perimenopausal symptoms such as, anxiety can increase. I mean, alcohol does have a known impact on depression and anxiety. So it increases those symptoms. And, one of the other things is alcohol messes with our estrogen levels. So it increases the circulating estrogen in our body. So again, that can cause, an impact on the perimenopausal symptoms too. But again, it is so unique to each person, I think. And I guess, one or two drinks probably isn't going to cause too many problems for some people. But one of the things that's, again, really important is the links between, alcohol consumption and increased breast cancer risk as well. As we go into perimenopause and menopause, often our risk of breast cancer increases. And I have had breast cancer myself at the age of 46. And so I've done a lot of research into this area. And I think it's one to be very, very, conscious of as a woman going into perimenopause and menopause.
You're talking about your own story where you were very much a drinker in social settings. And I know from previous guests we've had on the show that another trap for a lot of women is the quiet drinking at home as a way to just decompress at the end of the day. You know what it's like. You come in, you pour a nice big glass of white or red or whatever your particular tipple is, and sit down in a chair and go, it's a celebration of end of day. And I think if women were listening and thinking, yeah, I'd like to cut back, but I'm not sure I want to commit to quitting alcohol because I really, this sort of process, this ceremony I go through at the end of each day is kind of nice. So what do you say to people when they come to you and they're a bit ambivalent about how they want to treat this?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And look, it isn't all about quitting drinking. I mean, some people want to stop drinking. Other people want to be more mindful about their drinking. Some people want to build more alcohol-free days into their week. Some people want to have a completely alcohol-free week and just have a drink or two on the weekend. Again, it's such a personal choice. But I think the most important thing is that you step back and get a bit more mindful about your drinking, because alcohol is an addictive substance and it has become so habitual. We're often reaching for a drink and not even thinking about it. So the most important thing to do initially is just to start to step back and get some awareness around your drinking and how much you're drinking, starting to really think about when is that thought for that first drink coming in and why am I having it? Do I really want to have a drink? Sometimes you might actually just be thirsty or wanting to reward yourself because it's the end of a work day. And it might even feel quite good to have a non-alcoholic drink first to start off with. And that's often one of the, the tactics that I'll use with my clients. We'll start there. Just push out that first alcoholic drink and try a non-alcoholic drink. And often they'll be like, that actually felt better than I thought it would. And so I think there is this habitual loop that we really get stuck in through our subconscious. And until we step away from that and start to question it a little bit, we don't really have a lot of awareness on why we're drinking.
So what does an alcohol coach do for a client?
So much. Well, look, really, because every client has a completely, different idea of what success looks like, I'm really there to help provide accountability, to help guide them to make aware and conscious choices around their drinking and to bring in some new behaviours. So I've had a client this week who has decided to have 3 alcohol-free days. She's not had 3 alcohol-free days in 10 years, but this is something that we've been working on. So we do a timetable for the week and look at when are the times when cravings will come up. And so I provide her with some techniques to manage those cravings. And then, she's built in that she'll go to yoga at 7 p.m. at night because that's often a time when she's drinking. So really I'm there to provide accountability, suggestions. I often have clients text me when they're initially going through those first few weeks when they're really trying to break through some of that, really conditioned behavior. And often it actually, often they'll say, oh, you helped me so much. I couldn't have done it without you. But really, I've just been there as a guide and someone who's had their own lived experience of a drinking issue that I've worked through. So again, they don't feel judged. It just feels like this beautiful, safe place. You've got someone to talk to who is offering you information, tools and tactics to use, and you're just exploring your relationship with alcohol and making changes 1 week at a time. And then it often morphs into more than just alcohol. There's lots of different lifestyle practices that we bring in as well, because once alcohol is taken out or plays less of a role, people start to look for other things that they want to bring into their life, which could be, new hobbies, new passions. They might start to have new career goals, and so we start to work on those as well.
All right, well, let's go with baby steps. So tell me, if people are interested in cutting back, give me some practical tips that are realistic and, small baby steps.
As a first port of call, I always say to just be really open and curious and start to do some reading. There are some fantastic books out there about alcohol. There are 2 that I often use with clients. One is called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, and the other one is called Alcohol Explained by William Porter. And they're both fantastic because they give you a whole lot of education and knowledge around alcohol and its impact on your body and brain and health that you probably don't know. And so when you start to build more education and information around it, you actually want to make different choices, because you've got to want to change from a positive emotional standpoint within yourself. I always say to clients that if you're in a position of a fear of missing out or not wanting to do it for yourself, you're wanting to do it for someone else, it's probably not the right time to be doing it.
It's flipping the switch to, I really should be doing this. I want to do this. It has a different connotation in your head, yeah?
Absolutely. And I'm open to making some changes. So I guess it's also about just being a little bit more kind to yourself as well, rather than saying, I must stop or I should stop. It's just about looking at it, I guess, more gently and saying, okay, I'm open to having a couple of days this week where maybe I choose not to drink, or I have one less drink and I'll see how that feels. Or maybe I'll go to that party on Saturday night and I'll see what it feels like to go and not have a drink. And it's then when you go and you don't have a drink and you feel good and you have a dance and you don't need to drink, and then you wake up on Sunday morning without a hangover and you think to yourself, wow, that was actually better than I expected it to be. I really enjoyed it and I feel really great this morning. And so then you have that positive reinforcement to go and try it again.
We'll be right back after this. Okay, we're back. For success, though, you need to prepare for success, so that before the party, you would be thinking about, how is it going to feel comfortable when someone comes to me and goes, hey, and tries to shove a drink in your hand?
Absolutely. That's such a great point. And so that's, as a coach, you do lots of work with clients on preparing for these events. What are your responses going to be to people? And if you don't feel good, what's your get out of jail plan? And so they often go into these events and they kind of know exactly what they're going to say. They will bring sometimes alcohol-free drinks with them so that they feel like they've got something that they can use, or else they'll talk to the host beforehand and just say, look, I'm just having a break from drinking at the moment. I'm not really wanting to publicise it, but I thought I'd let you know so I can just put a drink in the fridge and go and grab it when I need it. So it is absolutely about a preparation and a plan, definitely.
Any other particular strategies and tips that you have for people at the starting gates, as it were? I mean, I've heard people say you should count how many ounces of alcohol you're getting in each drink, which sounds to me like doing a bit of a walk of shame.
No, I'm definitely not into counting ounces. I mean, I think at the beginning of this journey, it's just very, very important to be open to new information, trying new things, but also being open to the fact that when we've been drinking for long periods of time, it is actually quite uncomfortable initially to start doing things without alcohol, and you're going to have reminders there all around you. So often it's nice to have a friend or someone in your corner who is there to support you. And so I'll often say to clients that if you've got someone who can come with you to these events, who knows where you're at, who you can chat to, who's got your best interests at heart, it can feel really good to have that support and have someone there.
And are there any particular phrases or useful kind of responses to have in your back pocket?
Yes, so I always like the one, rather than saying, oh, no, I'm not drinking, if someone asks you if you're having a drink, it always feels better to say, yes, I'd love something soft. I feel like when you say, no, I'm not drinking, this negative bias, it sort of invites conversation around why you're not drinking. But if you appear more confident and say, yes, I'd love something soft, I'm driving, or yes, I'd love a mineral water, I'm getting up early to do an event tomorrow, it really doesn't leave an opportunity for someone to come in and say too much. So it's really sometimes about how confident you sound. Because if you come in and say, oh, no, I'm not drinking, and immediately people can feel, here's an opportunity for me to come in and try and get you to have a drink.
Yeah. And after a few drinks, that just sort of, some people, it brings out that particular side, I imagine. Tell me, you're 4 years now into being alcohol-free. Can you describe the difference in how you feel? I mean, I've got to say, your skin looks amazing.
I must say, I do get lots of comments about my skin, and it really has been, I think, one of the benefits, I guess, external benefits, but really the benefits have really been internal benefits in myself. I feel so much more present and grounded. I feel like I have a greater capacity and creativity for my work. It's actually been so far beyond what I thought it would be. Initially, I thought I was stopping drinking because I wasn't enjoying, some of the hangovers and some of the, I guess, the effects of really late nights when I wouldn't remember certain nights very well. But actually what's happened is my whole world has expanded and opened out. And I have this new career as well that I absolutely love. And sometimes I think that you don't even have to have a problem with drinking to actually try alcohol-free life for a little while. You will be really surprised at what might unfold. And for me, it's just been a greater knowing and understanding of the person I am. And for me, that was something that was really important. And I also love mornings. I've always loved mornings. And so I love the fact that I can always go and pick my teenage kids up late at night as well, if they're stranded or need a lift home from a party, and that I'm not worried about, how much I've had to drink either. So the benefits for me really just keep growing all the time.
So I wanted to ask you something. How long do you think it takes to really quit alcohol?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer, because there are some people who quit drinking for years, but they kind of use willpower to do it. And there are others who stop drinking but do a whole lot more work on the reasons why they were drinking and find sort of freedom from that. But look, in the alcohol coaching world, we kind of have this we have this sort of time frame, I guess, of 12 months. If you can go through 12 months of not drinking, of leading an alcohol-free lifestyle, you're pretty much going to go through all of what life has to throw at you in those 12 months, whether that be birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas, summer holidays, unexpected challenges.
Well, that's where, Kathryn, in your own life, when you got the breast cancer diagnosis, I mean, that is enough to make anybody want to go and sit down and pour a glass of something stiff.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, that came in the first 6 weeks for me.
Oh,
so that
wow.
that was just unfathomable, to be honest. And yes, initially I did think to myself, oh my gosh, this is not the right time to stop drinking. But very quickly I turned that around once I started to find out some information about alcohol and breast cancer. And I very quickly came to the decision that really to put myself in my best mental and physical health to get through the treatment, that being alcohol-free was the right way to go. And I'm so glad I made that decision.
So I want to pose something to you. You know, we're talking to women, a lot of whom are perimenopausal, who are, they feel, I suppose, that their sense of discipline and drive is completely tapped out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just offer them a whole lot of compassion, because I think as women, busy women, we are juggling so much. And in a way, alcohol has been, I guess, a real sense of relief and a friend to many. I guess the thing is it really a friend? And is there another way of self-care that you can start to bring into your life? And it doesn't have to be about a rule. It's really about slowing down and trying to find other areas of connection and reward and what they might look like for you. And I think that's the thing. We all have our own way of connecting with joy in our lives and the things that make us feel passion in our lives. And I guess if we're drinking regularly and all the time, we sometimes lose touch with what that might be. And so I would, offer to those women that rather than putting rules around your drinking, maybe just start to look at bringing some other things into your life initially that you really enjoy doing, and start to focus on those.
That's great advice, Kathryn. Thanks so much for joining us today. That's all we have time for. But thank you, listeners, for joining us. If you're after more practical advice to help you live your best life at midlife, do pick up a copy of Prevention Magazine. I'm Andrea Duval, and I'll see you next time.